I just want to take a few minutes to step you through the script that I've given you and talk a little bit about what it's doing and also show you how to set it up and run it. So here's the script as it appears in the D2L page. I'm just going to highlight everything that we have here. There we go. Just copy it to the clipboard and then switch back to R. And I'm just working in the same environment that we used for the last lesson, although I am going to need a new script file here to put the script into. So if you haven't yet saved your Census API script that we used earlier, just go ahead and save that now. And then choose File and New File, like that, and then R script. So now you've got a fresh place to put your script. So I'm going to paste that in here. There we go. And now we're ready to start running the script. All right, so I'm going to assume that you have already installed these things here. So I'm going to leave those commented out. If you haven't installed them for some reason, you can always delete these hashtags here and run this code and get those things installed. You'll definitely need them. However, I'm going to assume here that that's already taken care of, so I'm going to leave that alone. You will need to run these two library commands in the option command. Remember, that's like opening up the applications that you've installed and just getting them ready to use. The other thing I'm going to bypass for now is this right here, because I have my API, my Census API, stored in memory in R. If you don't, you'll want to remove this hashtag right here and then paste your own Census API key between these quote marks right here, just whatever it is. Okay, so be sure you do that, otherwise this isn't going to work at all. Okay, I'm going to set everything back to the hashtag there, so that R is going to ignore that code, and we're finally ready to start running something. So what the script does is it goes back and it gets the median rents in 2015 for all of the larger counties, the 65,000 population plus counties in Tennessee, and it puts them in one data frame. That's what this part of the script does. Let me go ahead and run it here. Okay, and it puts it in a data frame called rents in 2015 right there. And then it does the same thing for the 2019 data. It goes and gets that data and puts it in a separate file called rents in 2019. There it is. And then it puts the two together, and it does that by using what we call a key variable. Let me open up the rents in 2015 data frame. And the key variables is GEOID. GEOID. It's a unique code that the Census Bureau gives to every county in the United States. These are the unique codes for Tennessee's counties. And that same variable is in the 2019 data frame. There it is. See that? And so R is going to use this GeoID to match these two data sets up and put them together. And that's what's happening at this point in the script right here, merging the 2015 and 2019 data. Happens with this, this function right here. So let's run that. There we go. And it puts it in a new data frame called merged rent. That's it right there. So if I open up merged rent, see now I have data from both of them. And interestingly, because there was a name variable in the 2015 data, the name of the county, and a name variable also in the 2019 data, R handles that by sticking a little X and Y on the end of the two so that the variable name is unique. So you'll have a name X and a name Y in here. I think everything else is, unique. So we have the median gross rent for 2015 and its error margin, and then the median gross rent for 2019 and its error margin in here, all lined up, and we got the geometry codes as well. So that's all in there. All right. So this next bit of code is just about making pretty column names for the KML file that you'll upload to Google My Maps. Remember, um, uh, 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 it's difficult to change column. You can actually change column headings in Google My Maps once you get the KML file imported. So better to make them nice and pretty at the outset. So I'm taking the merged rent variable for name, which is the county name, and I'm assigning it to a variable named county, capital COUNTY. That'll show up in the in the KML file. Likewise for rent and change, meaning the change in the rent from 2019 and 2015. And notice it's doing math here. It's saying I'm going to create a variable called change, and I'm going to give it the value, which is the median gross rent from 2019 minus the median gross rent from 2015. So that's how that shows up. This next bit of code, let's see, did I actually run this? I forget. Let me run it again just in case. There we go. Yeah. So that's done. Now, this next bit of code is kind of interesting. What it's doing is it is going to look at the rent for each county for 2019 and also the rent for each county from 2015. And it's also going to look at the error margin for those two estimates. Remember, this is data based on a random sample survey taken at the time the survey was done. So every estimate in there has an error margin, right? And it's possible that if the rent is greater in 2019 than it was in 2015, it could be that the 2019 rent estimate is within the error margin of the 2015 rent estimate, and that the two error margins overlap. And therefore, it could be that rent hasn't really increased in that county; it just seems to have increased, but that the sampling error in both of the surveys could have produced that difference. And so this is a way of testing to see if the difference between the 2015 and the 2019 rent is so big that it couldn't possibly be due to just random sampling error, that rents really have in fact changed, gone up in most cases between the 2 years. So there's a lot of big hairy math involved here. The thing that I want you to see is that R is going to do it all for you. If you were doing this in Google Sheets, you would have to figure all this out for yourself and then replicate it for every row in the data set. So R is saving you a lot of time here. It's also going to look at the test value that this thing spits out and decide whether it's significant or not. Basically, it's going to be non-significant if the test value is less than 1.645. There's a lot of underlying statistical stuff going on here, but 1.645 is the critical value for an error margin at the 90% level of confidence. So so that's why we're using that particular value. That's a constant in this case. If it's less than that, it's going to put the word non-significant in this significance column in the data frame. And if it's equal to that or greater, it's going to put the word significant in that column. So that way it's just kind of letting you know whether this difference is significant or not. So let me run that code as well. Just highlight it and run. There we are. And then this is pretty cool. It's going to give you a little preview map to show you what it is you have. And it's also going to color code that preview map according to that change value. Remember, change is the variable up here that shows you the difference between the 2019 median gross rent and the 2015 median gross rent. So that's how much rent has increased. So let's see what this does for us. If you highlight it and click run, you get a little map over here. How about that? Now, obviously, remember we're dealing with the single year American Community Survey estimates, and those estimates include estimates for only for counties that have 65,000 people living them or more. So that's why Most of the counties in Tennessee are not visible on the map, but you have the ones that you might be interested in. That's Davidson County right there, and here's Rutherford. And you have most of the counties right around Davidson County, as we did for the initial rent investigation that we did earlier in the semester. And they're color coded according to how much rent has changed. You can see that Davidson County pretty clearly has the biggest rent change, 250 over $250 a month more now to rent a place in Davidson County than back in 2015. And Williamson and Rutherford are not that far behind, right? You know, you can zoom in on this thing if you want, get a screen capture of it, and you know, and have that. But what we want is a nice interactive map, so that's coming up. All right, so this next bit of code does all of the math that you did using Google Sheets the first time we looked at rent. Remember all this? This is figuring out the minimum rent for 2019 by taking the rent estimate and subtracting the error margin. This is figuring out the maximum by taking the rent estimate and adding the error margin to it. And then this is figuring out how much money per month you would have to make in order to afford the rent, with rent being 30% of your total household income. That's how much you would have to make hourly in order to afford the median rent. And this is the number of minimum wage jobs you would have to work in order to afford that rent. And the only thing I want you to see here is that you had to do all this manually in Google Sheets. And if you know the code, you can do it in R, and R will do that for you as many times as you want it to. Let me run that real quick. And you can see this stuff runs in the blink of an eye. It's just very fast. I'm going to sort the data by the rent change. That's what this code does. And then finally, this code makes the KML map. Let me do that real quick. Let me actually make sure I don't already have one in here. Let's see. Rent change KML. Nope. Okay. Yeah, I was checking because I, of course, checked this code before I started making the video. One of the things that will happen here, let me go ahead and run this. Here we go. You see how when I ran the code, the rent change KML showed up over here. If I try to run this again, watch what happens. I'll get an error. Let me get it highlighted here. Okay. And see, it says I can't do it. And the reason it's giving you that error is because the rent change KML is already created and it doesn't know how to overwrite it. So if you, for some reason, need to regenerate the KML file, the way to do it is to delete this file. Just check the box next to it and choose delete. And see, it goes away. And now I could run this code again. And it runs fine and it's back. Okay, so just an aside if you run into that. But anyway, that KML is now ready to be imported into Google Sheets. Google My Maps, and styled according to using the skills and techniques you've already figured out and learned how to do. So that's a quick run through on how to use the script. I almost forgot to show you one of the coolest things about this script. So you've seen how it can make that KML map and gather all that data for counties in Tennessee. What if you want to look at a different state? It's just as easy as this. Instead of TN, let's look just a little bit south at Georgia. So here's GA. That's going to get the 2015 data for Georgia, and get the 2019 data for Georgia as well. And everything else here can stay the same. And it'll work just fine. Now, I don't want to regenerate the KML, although I could. I'd have to come down here and delete this one, or I could give this, let's do it that way. Let's say rent change Georgia. Okay, since it has a different file name, it won't try to overwrite this one that's already here. But now if I copy all this, I can go back up to here. I think really there's no reason to run the library code because these libraries are already open and running. So I can start right here. But watch how quickly and easily this runs. Here we go. Let's run it. Okay, everything's fine. And if we look at the plots, now we have a map, a sample map of all of the counties in Georgia that have 65,000 or more. And all of these data files up here have now they have Georgia data in them. Let's see, here's the big one, merged rent, I think it is. Yeah. See, we have Fayette County, Georgia, Fulton County, Georgia. This was all Tennessee stuff just a minute ago. And, you could do the same with any other city you want here. Let's see. Here we are. Suppose we want, say, California. Well, CA here and CA here. Again, run the data. Let's see. Let's change this to the California KML. There we are. There. And run it. And now we have a California map and California data. If I open up the merged rent file, here's all the counties in California. So I hope you get an idea of how powerful this is. You can since the code is there and has all of the calculations and everything involved already in the script. All you have to do is tweak a few things about the script, and you can get data for any state in the country that you want this data for. So that's one of the advantages of computer code over a spreadsheet. If you were doing this in a spreadsheet, you'd have to reconfigure everything, rewrite all those formulas and all that sort of stuff. In code, it's just that easy to run a second time.